What's up, guys? Welcome back. I did a video, some univibe testing, and there was a lot of positive feedback regarding the tones, some of the Hendrix style tones. It was really great. I felt really fortunate to have it received so well. And a lot of people were asking about the signal chain, how I had it set up with the different pedals on the floor there. And I figured this would be a great opportunity to kind of segue into getting into the Hendrix videos and the Hendrix tone discussions. We've done a lot regarding Stevie Ray Vaughan. Obviously, he's, my absolute favorite. Jimi was just an alien. He was something, a force of nature unlike any other. And his ability to imagine sounds and bring them out of his instrument in the studio live, it just amazes me when some of those sounds were made possible by certain pedals. So I figured I could talk a little bit about the Hendrix tone. I don't claim to be an expert. I just know from experience and a little elbow grease what kind of works. And I'm going to discuss some pedals, and we're also going to have a couple of special guests chime in and show us their Hendrix setups, which is really, really cool. It's just we're going to break down the pedals, and I'm going to explain to you, how he was using them and how they can be beneficial in some ways. But it's just I figured it'd be a great way to start this Hendrix series. Maybe we could do a little more Hendrix stuff, some lick lessons, some setup things. Whatever you guys want to do, you can leave it down in the comments. Before we get going, I just want to ask you guys to like and subscribe if this is something you're into. If not, I totally understand and I get it. We're doing really well, and I really appreciate all of the interaction and the positivity that happens down below in these comments. So thank you. We know he was a master of those clean Curtis Mayfield, some of that Ike Turner, the Isley Brothers stuff, that great Motown meets lullaby kind of his own style he represented, and his own style he created in songs like Castles Made of Sand, Little Wing, the early parts of Bold as Love, The Wind Cries Mary, Remember. These are all great tones. But also Jimi is associated with this huge, dynamic, searing fuzz tone. If I was building a Hendrix rig, I would grab myself an old Arbiter fuzz face if I really wanted to get authentic. Now, there are many other fuzz pedals that can recreate that stuff close. To me, just keeping it authentic, I would just get an old one. I know there's a lot of fuzz face builders out there, and those guys are doing great work. And obviously they have to be inspired by the master Jimi Hendrix, because, I don't think you can even speak a guitar language and say that Jimi Hendrix didn't inspire you in some way. You have to keep in mind when using a fuzz that Jimi was playing through multiple 100-watt amps cranked. This pedal is going to react really, really efficient and different in a situation like that. When you're at home, I've discussed this before, using a fuzz style pedal at home. I've done a video showcasing how to kind of set it up at lower volumes. When those amps are cranked and you're already getting this huge rhythm crunch, this pedal, once you step on this button, will just soar into outer space. It can carry a note, and that's how these guys, they're able to do these long bends and feel like it's constantly full. There's no dead air. There's nothing dropping off and cutting out for a little bit. It's because they're playing with such loud volume. So the fuzz face is definitely a must-have for Jimi Hendrix, and this is a BC 183 model. I do have an NKT 275 germanium. This is a silicon. Maybe I'll pull that out and we can test both of them, but this is definitely a must-have for me. Earlier in some really, really early photos in London, I do see Jimi with a tone bender style pedal resting on the amp. I'm not sure if he was plugged into it. Maybe it was a backup, but I'm sure he was just trying to find tones as a young artist, trying to wow people. And it seems like for the most part he settled on the Arbiter fuzz faces, but I did see him a few times with these in the vicinity of his rig. So, tone bender style pedals. This is actually a Zonk, so it's more of an Octavia, but it's in the tone bender family. So Jimi was definitely hip to these as well, and he was using what was available at the time. It's 66. There wasn't like there was 500 vendors building fuzz pedals at the time. Suggestive listening: if you want to hear Jimi really capitalizing on a germanium fuzz, to me, 100% without a doubt, the Monterey Show is a germanium fuzz. You can hear how fat and woolly and really wide and warm the fuzz tone is that he's getting, especially when he's taking the guitar that he sacrificed and kind of, you know, getting feedback from it. You can really hear it really warm, and that's a clear indication of a germanium fuzz. Some of the silicon stuff is afterwards. You know, I do feel as though Woodstock was silicon, Band of Gypsies definitely silicon, and you can hear a difference. You can hear a little bit of brightness, and as we go on to some of the pedals down the line, I'm going to explain to you how he kind of wrangled that in and made it work to his advantage. The wah-wah, probably my absolute favorite pedal to have in line. This is an early one. Some earlier photos of Jimmy in early '67 using this top logo Crybaby, obviously because of the top badge. To me, Jimmy just didn't use it as all the time. You know what I mean? He used it when he would step on when he would want a high note to jump out. He would just toe down, punch it out, and then click it back off. When he would want a rhythm line to kind of a sliding rhythm chord or something like that, he would step on that. So he really used this as a tool, an expressive tool for his tones, you know? It wasn't just you know, whack the wah as hard as you can, keep it going, and then shut it off. It was definitely musical. It was rhythmic in the way he used it, and he was a wah-wah master, you know? Just listen to the wah-wah tones in Red House from the Winterland setup. The wah-wah playing in Red House is just incredible. In the beginning, you know, Jimmy was kind of just a fuzz and wah guy, and it's duly noted. You can see it on the floor there. But as time went on, tools like this, the Univibe, you can't listen to Machine Gun and not hear, you know, the obvious Univibe. You can't listen to Isabella. You can't listen to many of those tracks where Jimmy was using this as a tool. One of the things I spoke about in that previous video was these pedals were designed with a preamp. So even when you have this pedal off, you're not using it, you have it in the cancel function with the foot pedal, it's still going through the circuit. And because it's going through the circuit, it's loading the signal. But it's loading the signal in a really cool way, much like an Echoplex would do. And I know there's companies that sell these preamp boosters, which is basically their take on just removing the preamp section out of these old pedals and putting them in a single pedal. And it really can fatten up your overall tone. You can use it as maybe a modeling setup to plug into an amp that you're not familiar with and really tune the preamp in. But one of the things that helped Jimmy with the volume and the fuzz tone was running his setup through this. This is going to add a little bit of crunch and a little bit of thickness to the overall sound. So when you hit a fuzz through that, you can imagine that the fuzz, now already being huge, thick, fat, searing tone, once it goes through this setup, it's just lights out. We've heard Jimmy use it so much that, you know, sometimes when we get a fuzz pedal and we plug it into our amp and it's just, we're wondering how those things are created. This had a really, really big effect, no pun intended, on what was going on there. This really helped Jimmy in maintaining those fat rhythm tones where he could not have the fuzz on and still make a song like Voodoo Child sound big, because it did beef up the signal. Keep in mind too, in the early days, a fuzz face, believe it or not, was actually one of the first true bypassed pedals. In 1966, 67, these pedals were actually true bypassed. There's a funny meme that goes around, it shows a picture of Jimmy at Woodstock, and it said nobody cared about the pedals being non-true bypassed. The fuzz face is actually one of the first true bypass pedals. The wah-wah isn't. And the wah-wah, although it doesn't have a preamp, can have the same effect on your signal. Because it's still going through the circuit even when it's off, it's going to load that signal a little bit. Can that help going into the fuzz if the fuzz is a little bright? Yes. Can you also throw the fuzz off because it's loading? The fuzz wants to see the pickups first, to me. So if you're going into the wah-wah first and you're loading the guitar signal before you hit the fuzz, it can act a little funny at times. Roger Mayer was rumored to have combated that with a little buffer or capacitor resistor setup in the wah-wah. But I've also heard, and I spoke to many people that said certain wah-wahs were paired with certain fuzz faces due to Roger Mayer's mods. Is there any truth to that? Nobody really knows unless we sat down here with Roger Mayer and talked to him. For the essential Hendrix stuff, lastly, I would get the Octavia. Think of the tone for the Purple Haze solo. Think of the tone, Who Knows, Band of Gypsies, that really screeching high-end squeal of almost a fuzz. This is what you're hearing. This is just Dunlop's remake, and I really feel as though this is one of my favorite ones. They did a great job. I try to buy these at a good deal when I can, but this Cheese Wedge Octavia is incredible. It can be kind of harsh, and if you ever watch some of those live things, especially in the Band of Gypsies footage, you can see him kind of rolling with the tone knob to try to fatten up that sound overall. I found that, again, putting this before the Univibe and pushing this through the Univibe preamp, even when the Univibe is off, kind of takes care of that, and it just allows this Octavia to be thick, to be high, and just soar. Your notes jump out. There's no issue, no sharpness, no harshness. So this is what I use if I'm putting together a Hendrix setup. I'm probably going to go into the fuzz. I'm going to have my guitar. I'm going to go into the fuzz face first. Then out of the fuzz face, I'm going to go into the Octavia. Then I'm going to go into the wah-wah. And then I'm going to go into the Univibe. So the Univibe is going to be the last thing. We'll see the thickness. We'll see what could be better, what could work in our favor. And I'm also going to put the Univibe on a looper so you can audibly hear the vibe in the circuit and the vibe out of the circuit. And I'll step on that a few times so you can hear me pulling it in and pulling it out. Thinking of Jimmy, we associate him with the large headstock Strat. Most often in the last couple of years with those two maple neck Strats. You know, does it have an effect? Yes, I do feel the maple neck Strats will be a little cleaner. I'm going to do a video soon about the differences between rosewood and maple, but I do feel as though the maple cap Strats he was playing with the large headstocks were a little clearer than, say, Black Bobbin pre-CBS, or even a 64, 65 era, even with, you know, gray bobbin pickups. The maple neck just has a different characteristic. It's a little clearer, it's a little poppier, and you can hear that, especially in the rhythm playing. Just listen to him with some of that melodic Motown Curtis Mayfield style playing. You can totally hear the maple neck Strat there. Having some great friends who are also Hendrix junkies is not a bad thing, and it's great to talk gear. So I got a couple of my buddies to get together and kind of send me a layout of what they're using for their Hendrix setups. I got mad respect for these guys, and I'm sure you know who they are. Check out their setups. Great gentlemen with killer tone. Glad to call them my friends. We're all united in, you know, worshiping Jimi Hendrix, because his tone is something that we'll never be able to reach, but we're always inspired, and these guys are too. So check this out.
Hey, okay, so for my favorite Jimi Hendrix inspired setup for tones and just sort of excitement when I'm playing through is really, it's a fuzz face and a wah pedal, and that's it. I mean, I love playing with an Octavia. I love Univibes as well, of course, all inspired by Hendrix. Just for me, if I'm in a recording situation and I have the opportunity to sort of pull apart the pedal board and only have like one or two pedals in the line, is when I prefer the sound of the pedals most. When it's really just one or two pedals in the line, and that's for sure with a vintage fuzz face and a vintage wah-wah pedal. That to me just sort of has the sound that I feel most inspired by, and is, for me, feels the best to play when there's not other things in the line. Although most of the time live I'll have, you know, other pedals, Hendrix inspired pedals in the line. And so yeah, that's really it for me. I love just a fuzz face and a wah, and I mean nothing's going to sound like Hendrix, but you know, or feel like that. But I think, you know, really it's about for me trying to strip it down and just kind of get as straightforward as possible. And I know some of my favorite shows I've ever heard were Hendrix with just a fuzz face and a wah pedal. So I'm gonna keep trying.
What up, Nick? It's Zapata. Here is my order. Hits the fuzzes first, then it jumps to this auxiliary board where the wah and the Univibe live. Hits the wah, then the Univibe, and then routes back to the main board where all the other effects are. Delay, reverb. Hope that helps. Just remember, don't think, feel.
My name is Tony Battle, and here's my Hendrix setup. So generally speaking, I do wah, fuzz, and then vibe. Part of that is out of pure convenience because I'm a left foot wah guy, so I like to have the wah just right there, and it makes it easier. Another part is because I don't generally use the fuzz and wah at the same time. And if I am going to use the fuzz and the wah at the same time, it's when basically on like a solo type thing. So I've got my guitar volume all the way up. I've already stepped on the fuzz. I'm trying to get more treble from the overall, or for the overall solo. I'll just step on the wah and, you know, pretty much just get that extra boost of treble. I don't need extra drive on my wahs, and if I were, for whatever reason, to want to do that sort of thing, then I'll use like a brute drive or something. And I generally use my fuzz spaces as more of an overdrive anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So like I said, wah, fuzz, vibe, maybe an Octavia somewhere in between there, but usually not.
All right, so I'm going to lay the pedals out. We're just going to do a quick couple of sound clips. You don't need me playing over and over again. I'm just going to show you some Hendrix tones and, you know, the layout that I prefer, that I use, how the wah-wah will work with the fuzz, how the vibe can kind of help everything, the overall clean sound, the sound running through the univibe without it being engaged, and, you know, just some of the things that Jimmy was doing when he would, you know, use a wah-wah to express a note instead of just fluttering it and rolling off on the fuzz to kind of get some certain, you know, like Power of Soul. If you listen to that, I think the fuzz is on the whole time and he's just rolling back, because if you've ever had a good silicon fuzz, you can kind of hear what's going on there when you roll the volume back on the guitar. But yeah, you know, sit back and check out some tones and let me know what you think.
Thank